Hi, welcome to this webinar. I'm Sai from Tech Immigrants. For today's webinar, I'm going to host it with Payman, and I'm really grateful for that. Without further ado, hi Payman.
Hello everyone. My name is Payman. I'm a senior front-end developer at Instruct, a company in Netherlands. And today we're going to talk to Delano, a very professional recruiter who is responsible for hiring me and another Iranian after me
Wow.
after a few months. So I
Yeah.
think we all can learn a lot from him. So let's not waste any more time and say hello to Delano.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
It's really good to have you here. Thank you for taking time, and I can explain how much value this is going to have for everyone in Iran who's looking for a job and to get a better resume and get like more ready for the interviews. So let's with the simple questions. This is two-part. First, can you give
Yeah.
us an introduction about your background? Like your experiences, and the second part, a bit fun for me, not for you. What do you think Chelsea would do this season?
Well, to be serious, let's go to the first question first. Well, thank you for inviting me, Payman, and the lovely introduction. Everybody, my name is Delano Engelhart. I work in the Netherlands for a tech recruitment agency called Engelhart Solutions, which is my own recruitment agency. We help tech professionals find the right job opportunity here. Could be a permanent position, could be a contractor position, could be a third-party contract. It really depends on, let's say, what it is the candidate is looking for to help the candidate find the right job opportunity here. And I have a background in international business management. I've been active in the field of IT recruitment for 6 years now, and I'm still enjoying myself.
That's good. That's good. So, oh, what about Chelsea?
What
You
about
thought I forget
Chelsea?
about that?
Yeah, Chelsea this season hasn't been too well. Since the new owners came along, I would say that the company or the organization has I don't know, made some mistakes, sacking the coach, making some bad transfers, and now we need to rebuild again. So I hope that next season will be better, and I'm sure
Hopefully,
you're happy
hopefully.
about this.
No. I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you. So let's
Thank
get into some serious job related questions. Um,
you.
okay, I'm gonna start with the resumes and get with a like a bigger picture and get more detail. First question would be: do you care about the layouts, the typography on the resumes, like two columns, one column? What do you prefer? What do you like?
Definitely. I would say you should see your resume as the first introduction to a company. Um, Sorry, give me 1 second. 1 second.
Yeah,
I need.
sure.
Yeah. So I say that let's talk about. Yeah. Okay. He's back.
Is that
He's back.
Sorry.
Yeah.
yeah.
Great.
So to discuss the resumes, as I said, the resume is the first introduction I give to a company about a candidate. So the layout is very important because it needs to be clear why this candidate is interesting to a company. And if your knowledge, experiences are all over the place, it doesn't give a proper first impression, I would say. So that's why I would definitely start by making sure that your layout is correct.
Do you care that it's like one page, two page, or three page? Like some people says
Um,
that it should be one page, but what do you think?
I care about the added value. So the things you put in your resume should add value. If you have a lot of experience, then it's of course valuable to mention that experience. If you're talking about the same experience 10 times, then you should wonder if you should shorten it and mention it one time so that it's at least mentioned. But make sure that that everything you put in your resume has is there for a reason. Let me put it like that.
Okay, that's good. We all know that the resumes have different sections, like summary, skills, experiences. Do you care about the order? Like, what do you want to
Um,
see at like the some people say it's like name, title, summary, skills, experience, and education. But do you care about that?
I do care about that, but again, it depends on every person is different. So how you do it, I leave that up to you. But it's important that you at least introduce yourself properly. So there should be personal information. Then there should be a part about you. Let's say a little story about your experience. You have been active in the field for how many years? With what technologies do you like to work? Make it a short and interesting summary. Let's say. After that, mention the work experience you have in uh, logical or chronological order, starting
Mhm.
with the most recent up, because that's the one that they will look at first, and that is the most relevant for the company you're applying for. So make sure that you put your most relevant work experience up. And in that work experience, it's not enough if you just put your job title and the company you're working for. What's interesting for the companies is to know what it is you're doing for this certain company. So mention the responsibilities, mention with what technologies, for example, you work with, mentioning what type of methodology, let's say agile, scrum, waterfall, what type of way of working you like to do. And then, if possible, also mention your results that you were able to achieve within the company. This way, the client also gets to see what kind of impact you have as a professional in your career.
Yeah, that makes
Does that
sense.
answer
That
your
makes sense.
question?
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. That was what I was looking for. So let's get a bit more detail into skills section. I
Yeah.
have a like couple of questions. First, that is, um, if the skills section is a long list of things, like
Mhm.
mentioned everything, is that a red flag to you, or do you count that as like, oh, this person has a lot of knowledge?
It depends on how it is presented. Again, if you are just mentioning technologies for the sake of mentioning them, then it's not really adding value, because in the interview, the employer will ask you questions about this technology, and you will not answer. You will not be able to answer thoroughly because it's something you mentioned for mentioning. So again, also with the list of tools and technologies, mention the ones you have worked with. If you're interested in certain technologies, you can mention that in a different section, like, hey, I'm interested in the following technologies, but I do not yet have experience. This way,
Mm.
it is, first of all, it's more honest, which I would always advise to candidates. Just be honest about your skill set and what it is you can do and you cannot do. And second, if you can do everything, then the question will be, what are you good at? If you can do everything, right? So I would not advise candidates to put all the technologies that they have ever heard of or touched once, put that on your resume. No, put the ones that you actually have worked with, have experience with, have knowledge of, and that again then add value to the overall picture that you're trying to give.
Yeah, yeah. My experience was I never worked with React in my work
Mhm.
experience. So I was a Vue.js developer for like 5, 6 years. I still got hired by you in a company that was React based. I didn't have the. I even was a like backend developer with PHP, but this company used Golang. So I didn't match
Yeah.
the stack at all. But you still
Yeah.
find the resume like noticeable. So
Because
like yeah, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
no, yeah. To add up
Uh,
on that, Hmm? Yeah, the reason why I still approached the profile for that position is we were looking for a front end developer who is eager to learn, because we, at least at Instruct, the company you're working for now, we believe that technology can be learned if the fundamentals are accurate. So that's why it's important to show what it is you can do well, because that what you can do might be the basis for something new to learn. And if a company is willing to invest in you, they can understand that, hey, you're here at the moment, but with the right guidance and steps, you can be this or learn that. And I think that is an important factor, let's say.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like when I see a resume is that like let's say for a front end developer, it mentions
Mm,
that I know React and Vue and Svelte and Angular. I would consider that okay. What is your power there? What's your experience? What's your starting point? And I guess a long skill list could be harmful at some points.
Indeed, if it's not backed up by real life experience or
Yeah,
knowledge.
yeah. Yeah.
Indeed, indeed.
Okay. Another question in the same section. We saw some conversation in our community about soft skills, and
Mhm.
there are some like positive and negative comments on it that you should not mention soft skills in your resume to say, "Oh, I work good in teams," or "I can solve problems." What do you see when you like acknowledge those in the resume?
Um, to be honest, it again depends, right? You can write the best part about yourself, how you think you are, but is that really how you're being perceived? So if you again write that you are a sweet, kind, negotiating person, when you go to the interview, make sure that you're a sweet, kind, negotiating person. If you are something else, then the whole expectations that you created with the other person, it falls away. So soft skills are important for an employer because you work with people. Doesn't matter what your title is, doesn't matter what your role is. We all work, collaborate, and work together as people, and soft skills are involved. So I'm not, let's say, against people using it, but make sure you use it in the right manner. And that is be truthful to yourself. And if you don't know it about yourself, ask the people around you, ask the colleagues around you, like, hey, what are character traits that define me, or that, yeah, that you notice in me as a colleague, employee, friend. So yeah,
Yeah,
that is what I
yeah,
would
yeah,
advise.
that
So
makes sense. That makes sense. Oh, okay, I'm going to ask, go a bit sideline.
yeah,
Do you know about Resume Boarded? The
about res.
Resume Boarded is a website that you pass your resume, your PDF or doc, and it analyzes it and gives you what to improve on it, right? And a lot of
Mhm.
people like get stuck in that loop to that think that what machine says is what you
Mm.
should change your resumes. Um, do you know any of these softwares or web application that have, I don't know, like suggestions for your resume? Have you encountered
Um,
them?
and I don't encounter them because, in that sense, I am the machine that evaluates resumes
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
gives provides feedback, right? So I don't use an external tool to do that because, again, I think it is about the story that somebody's trying to tell, and how the person tells that story and what you can get out of that story. That decides, at least for me as a recruiter, like, hey, this person is interested in this, and that aligns with my client. And in that sense, I try to align. If I just look at, let's say, the keywords in a resume, yeah, then there are a lot of tools. But again, behind that resume is a person, and I'm trying to understand
yeah.
that person. So,
Oh,
yeah,
thank God we
that's
have you. What a person who actually read and like decide about that. Yeah,
yeah.
I ask about that because those softwares tell you
Mm,
a lot of recommendation to change. That when you see more and more around those resumes, one thing they say is to add numbers to the experience, to say that, oh, I did this that caused 20% better performance, or I did this that caused like 10% more revenue. And like for some people and some experiences, some jobs, that's easy to
mm,
get those numbers. But for a lot of like maybe juniors or mid levels, based on their responsibility, that's not possible. That's they only can like make up numbers based on the job they had. There's nothing public about those information. But because those software just tell them, oh, you have to do this, otherwise your rate, there's a score on those websites, and people want to get that to 100, right? So it's
mm,
like a
mm.
gamification that you think, oh, you should add misinformation to get a higher number. But yeah,
Indeed.
I
And
wanted to hear your thought.
yeah, and that is incorrect. And I would say again, that is a machine doing the work, and a machine needs, let's say, data to calculate in that sense. But the hiring manager behind that computer is going to be a person. Once again, so I would not provide misinformation because a machine tells you to do so. I would provide information that adds value. And if in your role as a junior front end developer you don't have that numbers, mention the responsibilities and tasks that you did have. You get what I mean? You
Yeah,
should not.
yeah, yeah,
If you don't know the percentage, then again, if you make up the percentage and there's a manager that actually understands what you're talking about and he dives deep on that number and you can back it up, then you're the one that's untruthful. You lose trust. You lose trust. You lose interest, and
yeah,
that's not something you would like to happen.
yeah,
And
exactly.
Saya, please, if you have any questions, also join in.
Yeah,
Definitely.
sure, yeah. So yeah, so I'm going to read some comments. We got one from Dennis. So he's asking, is it okay to apply to several positions in a company at the same time, or does it seem too desperate?
I would say that is too desperate because, especially if the roles do not align. Let's say you apply for a DevOps engineer position, but you
Yeah.
also apply for a software engineer position at the same
Hmm.
time. The company is going to wonder, what are you, a DevOps engineer, a software engineer, or are you just trying to get into the company? And that is not a good look. If you feel like two roles are similar, let's say, and have the same type of responsibility, but there's a slight difference, apply for the apply for one, but mention that, hey, if possible, you would also like to be mentioned in the conversation about the other role. Letting them know that, hey, that might also be interesting for your profile, but I wouldn't apply for multiple positions at the same time for the same company. Definitely don't do that.
I see. Yeah, thank you. Another comment, it says like, why easy apply isn't recommended on LinkedIn, or do you recommend like applying on LinkedIn with the easy apply option?
Um, I would say the more effort you put into applying, the
Yeah,
more chances you have of succeeding. So, meaning that easy apply, I believe it automatically fills in your information, but I don't know if you're able to tell the story of your motivation. Maybe send a CV and a motivation letter and some extra details. So instead of doing easy apply, I would say try and find maybe one of the recruiters of the company. Try finding HR and send them an email that is complete, resume, motivation letter, and try to find out why you would be interesting for that company and mention that, so that they also know that if they look at your profile, oh, this is the reason why, for example, Jora is trying to apply for this position. So that is what I would recommend.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. Another comment. If I want to apply to two different roles like full stack PHP, full stack JavaScript, then it's okay to send different resume to different companies with one general LinkedIn. Like I'm guessing like he has probably the same like profile.
I get your question. That really depends. Sometimes a profile can lean, depending on the role, lean a bit more into one or the other. So let's say if you're a full stack developer, but you have both backend and front end skills, then for one client, it might be interesting to mention more of your front end experience. And for one client, it might be interesting to mention more of your backend experience. So in that sense, yes, it's okay to send two different CVs, but make sure that it makes sense. So you cannot work for a different company at the same time that you were working for that company, because then what were you doing at that time? If they see your LinkedIn, then they will start asking questions. But
I
if
see.
during that project there was an element of PHP and an element of JavaScript, and you highlight the PHP one for the PHP role and you highlight the JavaScript one for the JavaScript role, then that makes sense. And it is, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. If you understand, Madi.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Paimon, please.
Yeah, let me ask another question. Continue the last one from comments. Let's say there are a few, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 experience on LinkedIn, right? And when you want to send a resume to one company, let's say it's for front end developer, but you were backend or full stack at one point in your LinkedIn. If you remove it, that creates a gap in your resume. And if you have that, maybe my example is not like perfect there, but how do you feel about gaps there in resumes when it's more customized to that position?
Um, I wouldn't recommend you to put the gap there, because you being a back end developer in that period might help you understand certain things and might be a plus for you. So I wouldn't recommend you to remove it. I would just make sure that it's clear that that was in the past, and now you're focused on being a front end developer, and that the last period you have been doing actively front end development work, and prove that. But it is then a plus that you do understand back end development in the past, instead of they're thinking you were doing nothing in the past and now. You get what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. On our first talk,
Yeah.
you in the middle of conversation, in the middle of the session, you first told me about your hobbies, and then
Yeah.
asked about mine.
Indeed.
I wanted to ask, like, how do you see hobbies in resumes? Because sometimes someone would like in one resume. I'm going to give you an example that what's my
Hmm.
problem. um,
Yeah.
you see on one resume that someone likes something like hiking or making music, right? Something like more specific, and maybe you say, oh, this is an interesting person. But
Mhm.
the problem I have is to see, like, I love music, movies, books. The very
Mhm.
general concept of like every human, right? People like
Mhm.
music, people
Indeed.
like books, and people like movies.
Yeah.
Do you like to see hobbies section in the resumes?
Um, the thing again is, it's not a must. If you don't have it, it's okay. If you have it, it's okay. What it does is, again, and maybe I'm going back to it a lot, but for me, it's about the connection as people. And hobbies, again, give you another point in your resume that the hiring manager, if that person for some reason also likes hiking, ice is broken. You can both talk about that. If you are a bit more specific about what type of movies, that other person can say, oh, but then do you like this? So it's another talking point, another connection point that you might have with the other person. So mandatory? No. Can it help?
Mm,
Yes, in
yeah.
that sense.
Yeah.
So I leave that
I
one
I think
open.
it's like a book, right? You pick up two books. One is engaging, one is not. When I send you a resume, I'm not there to explain that to you and convince you that this is good. Whatever I sent you, that's it. Either I got it or don't. So yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. This is
Try to
this
be
is really
more
good point.
specific. Yeah, I get what you mean in that sense. Try to be more specific, because the more specific you can be, the better the other person can understand it and have a connection with it. But yeah, again, I leave it up to the people. That's really up to them what they want to do.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay, let's get into the first meeting with the
Yeah,
candidate.
with the
You
candidate.
explain you would explain the position. You would ask some questions about the resumes. My
Mhm.
question is, what questions do you expect from them?
Um, what is important, if I find a candidate that I think is interesting for my client, I reach out, the candidate responds. First, what I try to do, so that you have an understanding, is try to understand where the candidate is. So what is your current situation? What is it you're looking for? How serious have you thought about what it is you're looking for? Try to challenge the candidate also, to get that person thinking. If the person have not thought about a new opportunity, why haven't you thought about it? Are you that happy? But if you're that happy, is there something that could be better in your job? Try to find the loopholes in that sense as a recruiter. But if a candidate is already open, I'm really trying to filter down, like, how serious are you about your next step, and have you done the research that's necessary to, when it does present itself, take that step. um yeah, what can I say? What else can I say about that?
Do you think it's better when they have questions, in compared to like someone silent?
Yeah, of course. If you are interested, you would like to know about the opportunity. Not only the one thing that I could give all of you who maybe want to relocate abroad is, don't be focused on the abroad part too much when you're talking to the company, because the company wants to feel that the company is interesting, the position is interesting, and not just the ticket to, for example, the Netherlands is the thing on your mind. So in that sense, ask questions, but ask questions that show that you're interested in the company or the new
Mm,
job opportunity. That is an important one. So ask questions, yes, but don't ask questions to ask questions.
yeah,
You get what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
You should be
I
interested.
think like a rule of thumb for me is to get more information about the like inner work of a company, like
Exactly.
who assign, like what is the structure of the teams. How do you like what is the like the internal side of the product, like what are the size of the team, like to get
With all
more
the knowledge.
what are you actually getting to, because the
Yeah,
numbers changes, like the process could change. You could get a like the job without that experience. You always learn it, like nowadays companies are looking for investment. They look for people to invest in, and
indeed.
to like have a cultural fit, as like the cool boys said.
Yeah, no, but indeed, you're correct, and that comes down again to interest in the company, the new job opportunity. Know what, how do your colleagues work? What do they look like? What technologies do they use? In terms of growth opportunities, what are the growth opportunities? Do they value getting certifications and development of their employees? That kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Just try to get to know them as a whole.
yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm talking too much, but on my first interview with Victor, that
Yeah.
at the
Mhm.
end, he asked me, "Do you have any question?" I asked him, "Are you happy in this company?" And I really got him. Like he was like
Yeah.
just thinking about it. But yeah, I think people should be ready to ask questions and not just say, "Okay, no, I don't have any question. Bye."
No, it's better to show that you're interested and
Yeah,
you thought
yeah.
about it. It also shows that you thought about it.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Okay, let's say the first session is done, and
Mhm.
how do you feel about getting feedbacks? Like, either if I get rejected or get to the next session, is it okay to ask you for feedback about how was the because even after engineering, I'm still talking to you, right? So you
Of
will
course,
tell me that, yeah, you passed that and you're going to next one, or you got rejected. How do you
mm,
feel about getting feedback?
always ask for feedback because one of my mottos is we win or we learn. So out of the mistakes we make during that interview, we're supposed to learn so that the next time we can win. So don't see it as, oh, they didn't take me or I'm not good enough. No, it's just not a match right now. But what can I do to in the future make sure that I am the match or I am the person that they're looking for? So definitely ask for the mistakes you made or for feedback. Learn from that. Take it with a grain of salt because it's all also somebody's opinion, right? So just take out of it what you believe you can take out of it, and then move on to the next challenge, to the next opportunity, and hopefully you will get it.
Yeah, yeah, but we also should consider that not every company or the on every size can respond to everyone, but at least we should try to ask for it.
Indeed, if you ask for it, and of course, even as a recruiter, sometimes I'm stuck with giving a candidate bad news, but then I haven't received thorough feedback from the hiring managers, for example. That is also a difficult situation for me, and I need to cope with that. But um, all we can do is ask. If they provide us, then we should use it to our advantage. If they don't, then we should just look in the mirror, be honest with ourselves, and see where we can improve.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, what about follow-ups? Still not getting an answer, because in some process, in some companies, they could like 2 weeks, 3 weeks between the steps. What about the follow-ups? What do you recommend?
Follow up. I always recommend if you have a recruiter or a contact person. Of course, it's that person's responsibility to make sure that you're up to date. But it does happen a lot within companies that they just follow up the candidates that they're interested in, and if you are rejected, they forget about you or you're not top priority. Unfortunately, it happens. What I will recommend you do is stay on top of the process yourself. Maybe send a follow up, see like, hey guys, I'm still in the process, haven't heard anything. If it takes too long, know for some reason that it might not look good. So even though it's not the way it's supposed to go, just keep in mind like, hey, I might be rejected or they might have continued with other candidates. So keep your options open as well. Don't be waiting for this one company and believing that, hey, they haven't responded, but they will respond. So I'm not talking to any other company until they respond. Don't do that. If you gave them some time, they are not responding. Just make sure you keep your options open as well.
Okay. But what is your recommendation for following up? Like after 3 days, after a week?
But that depends on during the conversation. I would ask in the first interview, like, hey, um, I'm curious, how long will the process take? When do you expect to get back to me? And for some companies, it could be a couple of weeks. Then know that they told it to you up front, and it is a couple of weeks. But if they tell you they will be back in 3 days and it has been a week, then you should be like, hey, guys, what's happening? Right? So it's about communication in that sense. Every company works different, has a different process. So it's not easy for me to generalize that. But what I would say is ask the question, like, guys, when do you expect to let me know so that I can keep track of that in terms of my own planning and schedule?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a perfect answer, because that also goes to questions from candidates. If the person interviewing you don't give you the process, ask about that. What is going to be the process of this, like whole interviews through to the final offer? If you get that, 'cause like I knew that it's going to be like you, one from engineering, two from engineering, and like the CTO, and difference between each is like a 1 week. So I could guess that if it's been more than 1 week, or maybe it's a good time to follow up.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh, exactly. It depends. It depends, right? So communicate, make sure you're on top of it, ask the question, and then based off that answer, move a certain way.
that's great. That's great. So let's go back to comments and see. Sorry if you have some
Sure.
questions for us.
Yeah, sure. So Amir is asking, is a portfolio website important? Do recruiters visit it? If yes, what do you look for? Should we focus on the resume only?
It depends. I would say it's always good, depending on also what type of role you have, but it's good to have a website with your work on it, right? So aside from your resume that is a bit more detailed, it's
Yeah,
good for the company to see the practical things you have done, maybe on your own or on the side, but it shows the level you're at, and it could add value. If it's a portfolio website that is not up to date and it's your oldest work, don't put it online and just send your resume. But if it's up to date and it's actually a good representation of your work, it's an added value.
I see. Another question by Dennis. Some people say that you should go to the company and apply in person to stand out. Does this matter at all? Does it matter if you go to the company and give them your CV printed out?
I would say these days, especially after COVID, I'm not sure going to the company in person everywhere is going to work for everybody. But I think the essence of it is if you, again, and if you put the energy in to actually go there in person, they get to see you in person, feel your energy, see you face to face. If that's your first introduction, then that is a better introduction than your competitor who might send the email and end up in
I
the
see.
mailbox, right? So yes, it can help to stand out, but that's only if you actually get to meet the person that you are applying to. If you are just going to the company and at the desk, the reception desk, you're going to give your resume and you're going to walk outside of the company, then that's basically the same as sending an email. So
I see.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
great.
good.
Thank you.
Um, let's get into the very big topic these days in every company. How do you
Mhm.
see the cultural field fit? How do you validate that? Like every company would say that, oh, bring me someone to be a cultural fit for us, for our team.
I think what they're trying to say in essence, especially for the European companies in the Western world, because that are most of my clients, they value it when candidates have experience with the way of working. The way of working in, for example, Iran, or the way of working in Africa or in Asia might be totally different than what they're used to in the Western world, and that's not only from uh, cultural, yeah, not only from a professional perspective, I would say, but more from a cultural perspective. How do you communicate with your manager? How do you communicate with your colleagues? Are you direct? Are you indirect? Those dynamics are also very important when you apply in a certain company, in a certain country. And I think that companies, at least in the Netherlands, they value when somebody already has experience in a Western type culture. could be UK, could be somewhere else in Europe, but the mindset and the way of working in Europe is different than in other continents. And yeah, I believe that they value that as being a culture fit that you're able to understand or adapt quickly to the Western way of working.
Yeah,
So
but
yeah.
in the past few years, a lot of big companies in Iran, well, like some unicorns, well, in Iran's economy, some unicorns company, they also like picked up some cultures from like Spotify or like Amazon or Google, and they try to um, uh, build that culture. So I wouldn't say right now it would always be the same as, oh, he's from Iran, he doesn't have the experience with. Yeah, I know I know you said a perfect keyword with the Western culture, not the Western company, just that. And that's something to adapt. So I would say like a lot of companies right now in Iran works in the same position to try to get to that
Agile Scrum.
performance space. Yeah, exactly. Shape up,
Mm,
agile, and
mm,
like have coaches and scrum masters and like different roles, have PM and like POs and these kind of things. Yep.
exactly. And as you said, that is more from a professional working experience. And when they're talking about a cultural fit, it's not always just that part. It's also the culture fit with society. And that is the translation you need to make. And I have a good book for everybody that is interested in learning about different cultures and how to use that in, let's say, a professional sense. The book is called The Culture Map, and it really describes how different cultures are approaching the way of working, what the differences are, and it could help you navigate if you're working in an international team. So the name of the book is Culture Map. Um, Later, I can send the link and share it with you guys. Check it out
Amazing.
if you're looking for.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Nothing better than resources that we can follow after the session.
good.
Okay, let's get back a bit to the resumes and some part like resume CVs on cover letters. Can you give us, from your experience, what are
Mm.
the like common mistakes you see that
Um,
we can avoid? It's like obvious.
in what, the resume or the cover letter?
You can separate those or like answer after
Mm,
each other.
I would say the most common mistakes in resume I see is not being specific enough. So mistaking, you need to be concise and summarized as saying nothing in return. So the only thing that they
Mm.
will mention is just their job title, when they work there, but not with which technologies. No um, factual things that are actually interesting for the company, right? So I would really, again, mention the technologies you work with, mention what it is you have done, and not only from a team perspective. My team has, no, tell them what you have done then in that team. And is that team 5 persons big? Are you in a team with 20 people and you're just doing one of the things that the other 20 do? Or, give us some perspective when you explain it to us. So that is one major one in resumes that I really want candidates to focus on. Mention what adds value and what it is you have done. When it comes to cover letters, it's okay to write a general cover letter about why you are so good, but tell the company why you're so good for them. So make the translation. So, hey, you have 10 years of experience being a front end developer. Um, Look at what type of company you are applying for, and then mention in those 10 years, I've worked for these and these companies, which are similar to what it is you do. I've worked in these type of situations, which is similar to the challenges you're facing with this and this. That way, you're already making the translation for the company. Like, hey, if I bring, for example, Payman on board, this is the added value he will bring to the company. And that's really what I would say candidates should focus on, is what kind of value am I going to bring to the company? Because every one of us has value to bring to the table. Just make sure that you emphasize on that value.
That's good. Do you want to like also mention something from the cover letter?
That was the cover letter, because in the cover letter
Oh,
you
sorry.
explain more clearly about your story, why it's interesting for you, but usually you end up telling why it's interesting for you, but not why it's interesting for the company. So also think about the company's perspective when you're writing them the letter.
Yeah. Just to mention, when you explain, I'm coming up with more questions. So the doors are locked. You're not going anywhere. Just if
Cool.
you
I
want to
hope.
tell anyone that you're here.
Yeah, no worries. I hope I can help
Okay.
tell you guys.
Yeah. One thing
Yeah.
that is like the most irritating to me is the
Mhm.
typos in resumes. How intense you get when you see typos in there? Is that a like big red flag for you? Is that like deadline that you just can't ignore anymore?
Again, it is something that it is easy fixable these days with Word, autocorrect, all the spelling checks you have. It doesn't have to be that way. For me personally, it's okay, but there are some hiring managers that because of that, it shows that you're not accurate, and because you're not accurate, you're not interesting for the job anymore. So make sure that, especially if it's a role that requires high detail, make sure that in your resume you show high attention to detail, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
um yeah, I can't say it
Yeah.
better. I think
Yeah.
that's
So to everyone, please fix the typos, please.
check it, double
I
check
think
it.
yeah. Because when you send out the resumes, it's done. You can't do anything. You already had your time to fix everything. And you mentioned, I
Yeah,
think there's so many tools that can fix that.
indeed. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
One of the like problems people I see people having community, with different companies has different titles for positions. Like you go to a company that they say you're a front end developer. You go to
Mhm.
another one, they say you're a mid level with like 5 years. And then you go to another company, they call a 4 year or 3 year developer a senior developer. That may match to their things, right? So when you're
Mhm.
writing your resume, you want you be because that's your just natural based on your LinkedIn. You added that job there. You wanted to follow that, but sometimes it creates mismatch on your resumes. And you are, let's say, you are really experienced. You have like 6 years, 7 years experience, but your last job had a title of just front end developer or even mid level developer because that was the job, the title there. And you want to apply for a senior developer position.
Mhm.
What should I do? Like,
Again, it comes back to in your resume, make sure that the points, so you can be, honestly, I don't look at the title. Honestly, the title is interesting, but it is what you do in that title. Because in a small company, you can be the CEO, but you could also be the one doing all of it alone, being the developer, product owner, and the CEO in one. So it's important that no matter the title, what is it you do in that role? Mention, specify that, because the hiring manager that understands what he's doing will look at your resume and see that, hey, at this company, his title is media, but he's leading the stand-ups. He's coaching junior. He's responsible for the architecture. He's making end decisions. You get what I mean? If
yeah,
this
yeah,
these
yeah.
are your tasks, but on top says middle front-end engineer, trust me, the company that's looking for senior will think, let me speak to this guy because probably the title is not accurate, but he has the responsibility.
I think that's the fear that you
Mm.
send a resume and someone open it and see, oh, it's a mid level and close it and not read everything. I think it could be a valid. I know you don't, but yeah, I think
Yeah,
it could be a valid fear to have, or at least a concern, not a fear of terrifying, but concern.
yeah, but it is valid, but it's also perspective, and that's why it's difficult to, let's say, agree with that fear because you don't know how the other person is going to look at it. The only thing you can do is the way you present yourself, and if you present yourself in detail, then if the other person is willing enough, that person can grasp what it is you're trying to say, right? But if you only put
Yeah,
you are a mid-level front-end developer and that's it, and the person needs to assume, smell, think
yeah,
for himself
yeah,
like, okay, but what
yeah.
does that mean? Then you're making it difficult for
Exactly,
yourself, the
exactly.
hiring man.
I think you gave a good example of summarizing at a level that it doesn't say anything anymore, and
Exactly,
it,
like,
it hurts the presentation.
yeah, indeed,
Yeah,
because yeah.
yeah. Okay, for next question, I want to clarify another myth. When
Mm,
I let's say we have a session, right, and you start asking about my experience and the skills I know, how much technical knowledge you have, because I get nervous. I mean, how deep should I get into
Uh,
like expressions, like keywords? Should I mention like
um,
very deep concepts, or should I keep it general?
that depends on the recruiter you're speaking to and how knowledgeable the recruiter is, right? Because depending on the questions I ask and the answers you give, I decide if I should go further, or I will tell you that I'm not capable of going that technical. But by the way you speak about a topic, I can see, that's my role as a recruiter, see if you understand what you're talking about. Because I do speak to a lot of front end developers. So even though I'm not a React JS developer myself, when you speak about it, I can hear, oh, you know what you're talking about. You're just talking about it recently and are starting to grasp it, or you are a thought leader, and you know what I mean? That will show.
Yep.
So by
Yep.
asking the right questions as a recruiter, I might not be able to decide if you are right or wrong, but I'm able to decide if you're comfortable talking about a topic, can go deep about it, or just want to say hi over. And if there's a deep question, you
Yeah.
are like,
Yeah.
please don't ask me, please. So that will show.
Yeah. But as a recruiter, when you get to a new field,
Yeah,
let's say front end is a new field right now for you, do you go and learn some things about it?
definitely. I need to learn the
Mm.
basics. I need to understand what program language, what frameworks, what's popular, what's not. But how do I learn that? By speaking to front end developers. And I can be honest about it. Like, hey, I'm new in this domain. I'm going to ask you some questions. But if there's a list of requirements, and for example, okay, Payman, do you have experience with React? And you tell me yes or no. What kind of experience you have? And you are already,
Mm.
or you're able to tell me, oh, Delano, at my last project, we were doing this, this, and this. And the project before that, I was doing this, this, and this. Then I already know how comfortable you are in speaking about React. You get what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
that's by you telling me, that's how I learn again. And
Oh, I have talked to many recruiters, but I
mm,
hope everyone would be just like you to have the information that is just a balanced conversation about it. No, seriously, it
yeah.
gets both side more comfortable to talk and validate, and you don't feel just judged. You feel that you've been heard, and those data would be transferred correctly to the next step.
Mm.
Yep.
And I would say that is definitely something that is important as a recruiter, because I feel that recruiters are, there are a lot of recruiters, unfortunately, that are not so popular in that sense. But I would really recommend everybody to understand that recruiters are not trying to judge you. We are trying to add value in the recruitment process and to match you to one of our clients or the company that you're currently working for. And to do that, we need to understand each other, because I want you to be happy, but I also want my client to be happy. And for that, we need understanding. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Let's get to a
Uh,
topic that I'm really passionate about. I
yeah.
think people should have something to present. And sometimes you can't do that through your previous jobs, right? And I think
Mhm.
for developers, it's get more obvious for designers, but for developers, you could work on some side projects and just create something that you can show.
Mhm.
I want to know your opinion about this, but with one extra note.
Mhm.
It's easier for front end developers to make something that it's a link, you click, it works, and you see, oh, this is detailed, this works
For sure.
properly. It's even close to the industry that that person applied for, so it's easy to validate that and get a point to it. But it's harder for maybe backend developer or DevOps or people who has projects on GitHub. And it's just some code and read me that maybe explain and have some screenshots. So, but it's hard to run it actually to see it in life, right?
Mhm.
How do you feel about like GitHub and like more portfolio for like backend developers or even front end developers through GitHub? Do you check
It,
GitHub?
it's an added value. I do check GitHub. I think, especially if you want to give a candidate more, if you want to give a candidate more enthusiasm or make the hiring manager more enthusiastic about the candidate, and you know the candidate is good, you would usually like to show some of the candidate's work. So having an up-to-date GitHub, having an up-to-date portfolio always helps with that. For back-end developers, even though they cannot make it visual, maybe they can show that they're writing good, clear code, concise, clear code. As a DevOps engineer, you can show how you deploy things or the tools you have worked with. So I would recommend, doesn't matter what your profession is, if you have something that you can show, present, do it. But make sure that it's presentable and representable. If it's not so good, then rather not mention it or rather not give them the link to your GitHub.
Exactly. I mean, the open source has so many good examples that how to present a GitHub repository well. There's so many things, like thousands of good examples, and it would be like you would say that, oh, they didn't put the effort and time to, as you said, make it presentable. Yeah, yeah,
Like,
totally agree. Do we have any comments, Saya?
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I got one comment by Sahar. Sahar asking like, what's your greatest advice to secure a job at the FANG companies?
Bank companies, you guys need to help me. What does that? I'm not.
It's
The
like,
Facebook,
go
Apple,
ahead.
Amazon, Netflix, Google.
Oh,
Yeah,
those companies. Yeah, I must say that are clients that are usually not in my client portfolio. Um, because they do their own sourcing on a global level, and yeah. Skill. Those companies are all about skills. I think with both Google, Facebook, you get, I don't know how many, 5 to 6 interview rounds, speaking to multiple people, doing multiple assessments. So if you're really focused on getting a job at those top rated companies, make sure your certificates are on point, make sure you have the the portfolio and the experience to show them that you're on their level. And that is a lot of work because I think everybody in the world would like to work for those type of companies. So the competition is very high. So make sure that everything about your profile introduction is flawless, flawless, and skills. Make sure that you're top tier. If you're just trying to start out and it's not a junior position, you can try, but know that the competition is very high.
true. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah. So yeah, payment, please. We got like 8 minutes left of the
Yeah.
webinar.
Okay.
Mm,
I think joining a company is not always company's choice. As a
mm,
candidate, also choose the company to work in a place because you like using third of your day there, right? So I
yeah.
would say that you work with companies in one side.
Mhm.
How do you validate the companies? What are you looking for? What are red flags to you to work with a company or not?
First of all, as you guys might have noticed, I'm very people focused. So important to me is how they treat the people. Are they seeing people as just a way to make money, or are they part of a family that you're joining? And how do you prove that? A lot of people can say that they are diverse, for example, or inclusive, but is it just a marketing statement? Or do you see it if you look at the company itself, the internationality, the different cultures within the team, how they treat people when things might not go as well as they would like to? Those type of aspects are very important for me. I'm big on development. So, are you looking for somebody that you can use immediately, or are you looking at somebody's potential and are you willing to grow with that person? Because I feel that these days, especially in tech, there's a big scarcity, and a lot of companies are like in need and they want what they want right now. But I believe that it's way better to look at employees' perspectives, candidates, like, hey, what is the potential somebody has, and can I hone that potential in that person? Because everybody needs to start somewhere. So if we're all focused on getting persons that are at the end goal, I think that's the wrong focus. We should start at people that have the drive and honest ambition to get somewhere and help them get there. And yeah, I'm looking for companies that understand that way of thinking and yeah, do business from that perspective.
That's great. That's a great advice. Um, I don't think I have. One more question. How do you feel about like social links in resumes? Like when people put Twitter or Instagram or their Facebook,
It's
do you think they
relevant.
bring value?
I think it brings value if you have your community. If I'm not mistaken, you were speaking on YouTube also the time that we were discussing instruct payment, correct? You already had your
Yeah,
own.
we had a Discord live where we take immigrants. Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
I
exactly. And
explained how lucky I was.
yeah, exactly. And when I spoke to Instruct, that was definitely something that they value. Like, hey, even though you did not, for example, new React.js, you were really focused on becoming a better developer. You were helping other people become a better developer, and you were interested in the community of front end development. And that is an added value you can have as an employee. Like, hey, this is somebody that is actually a community builder. If he likes the environment, he will help other team members also get into that environment, get better. And so if you have something like that, again, make sure that it's relevant. If you have, for example, a Twitter page, but you're only complaining about politics and it has nothing to do with development, why put it in your resume? You get what I mean? So
Yeah,
make sure it
yeah,
adds value.
yeah,
Make sure it
yeah.
adds.
I think I also remembered one comment in the community that someone says that the company I applied for just called me out of the blue, and my response would, "You put it your phone there, and by putting
Mhm.
there, you told them that to check this. This is a proper value, the proper way to contact me. So it should be filtered. If that doesn't bring any value or making problems, just remove it. It's not a bad resume not to have extra things.
No, exactly. And if it's required, they will ask for it. It's
Yeah,
that
yeah,
simple.
yeah. Makes sense. I don't have any more questions right
Yeah.
now. Do you have any advice for people? I know you hope to your audience to join Instruct, and
Yeah.
so you're kind of familiar with our culture, um, and how we go through processes. So, do you have any advices for our community how we can get better and maybe land a job in the future?
Definitely. First thing that I also really want to recommend is if you are looking for international job opportunity, make sure your level of business English is on par, right? Make sure that you're able to do your interviews fluently, that you're able to get your point across fluently, but also that you're able to understand what questions are asked and the nuances within those questions. Because sometimes, if you speak English on a basic level, you might think you're getting one question, but you're actually getting another. And if you then are not able to comprehend that question correctly, it will show that you're not yet ready to work remotely or be transferred to that country because there will be a lot of adapting necessary for you to get on a
Yeah.
certain level. So first, English level, please get it up to par. Second is, I would say, and maybe this is difficult or maybe a weird way to say it, but if you need to relocate, you are already um, a point behind, let's say. So if you're competing to a candidate that is within that country and you're a candidate that needs to come from abroad, just know for the company, it's an extra hassle to get you from abroad, meaning that you need to show them in the interview process that you're worth it, right? If you're on the other side of the world, for example, and there are some interviews and you don't show up for a second interview, for whatever reason, but you do not communicate that, it is already difficult to build that trust since you're on the other side of the world. And those little things will make the company lose faith, especially making a big decision about taking you and your family to Europe or to the Netherlands or to whatever. So really make sure that in that process, you show yourself from the best side, show them that you're trustworthy and really motivated. I think that could really help. Then again, skills, certificates. Make sure a lot of companies here work Agile Scrum. Make sure you're familiar with that. Make sure how that works, that you know how that works. If you're capable of getting certificates, I know, for example, in I believe in Iran it's difficult to work with cloud or there are not a lot of companies that give you free access to cloud. So it can be difficult to get practical knowledge within the company. To compensate for that, make sure you get certificates that you can get online on Udemy or other platforms that are accessible to you, so that you show the company like, hey, even though it's prohibited, even though it's made very difficult for me to do so, I'm trying the best I can to get that knowledge, and I just need the first opportunity to work in that environment, right? So um, that is another one. What else? Again, genuine interest. Even if the main reason that you're applying is to get into Europe at that moment or get into the Netherlands, make sure that the company you do apply for is a company you would really like to work for, and show them that you would really like to work for the company, and it's not just about the ticket. I cannot stress that enough, how many times a candidate has a good profile, but then the first thing they talk about is how much am I getting paid and do I get a sponsorship? Then it's like, yeah, but let's see if the role is a match. If you like the company, do you want to work with us? But clearly, if we pay you and say yes, you're saying, where can I sign? And if that's the case, company will be like, if you do that now, then when you're here and you get other opportunities, we have done all the effort in bringing you to the Netherlands, but the first best opportunity that will pay you more, you'll be like, I'm gone. And that is something that companies are also aware of, because that happens a lot as well, unfortunately. So keep that in mind.
Well,
Yeah.
very good points.
Yeah.
Very good points. I
Yeah.
I think you brought a really good point. First about the impression when you like miss a session or meeting or you're late. But as you mentioned, things are a bit harder in Iran, and people even have
Yes.
problems in using not just cloud. Some general things like Google Meet or Skype, those get filtered and blocked and banned internally. So sometimes you never know what happens every day. It's not um, like like for all week or a month that you would just know. It actually could happen in the same day. So for the future references, if something like happened any day from Iran, just consider that.
Yeah, exactly. And I know I keep that in mind when I deal with candidates in Iran or different regions where I know it could be more difficult. But then again, it is important that you send an email, you communicate at that point, because even though it's a normal
Exactly.
thing over there, it's not normal over here. So just a message like, hey, internet is not working, then that already gives some clarity. If you do not send anything and then the next day and you're like, yeah, but this is normal over here, but we had a meeting scheduled yesterday. You
Yeah.
didn't let me
Yeah.
hear. Then
Yeah. Yeah.
what are
Yeah.
we doing?
That I totally agree. That the communication should be clear. And
Yeah,
yeah, but we are the generations of all hacks of tricks of the things to work with internet. So we will find a way. We will
yeah,
communicate.
always.
Yeah. Do you have any more questions? Sorry, from comments.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also, guys, if there's anything
yeah,
you would like to still,
sure. Like, I want to ask, like, is it like the correct book that you mentioned before?
yeah, by Ermine, indeed, it's yellow.
Oh,
I think the
Yeah,
front.
exactly. Yeah,
It's a great
yeah,
book, guys. You'll be amazed. For real, it's a great book.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. So I want to ask you and Paymon to read the comments. If there are any comments that you want to ask, because we got like 1 hour and like 4 minutes. So anything you
Hmm.
like, it's interesting, like to talk about.
Let me let me see. Please let me- I'm looking to find a new job. Can you help me with a new position? You can send me a LinkedIn invite. I can check out your profile. Can't promise, but I can do my best. Is there any chance for any beginner to get a job offer or remote job? What is the way? Um, of course, every beginner needs to start somewhere. Make sure that you know what it is you want and be honest about it, and then show them that even though you're not there yet, that you're willing to get there. And then somebody needs to give you the right chance. But if you show the right motivation and effort, you will get that chance. I really believe that. I want to play the Java. It's okay. That question we answered. We answered that one. Is there any chance for a beginner who wants to come to the Netherlands from Germany? If you're already in Europe, it might be easier. But remember that for beginners, companies are usually not willing to pay relocation costs because it's not worth the investment in that sense. Because they, aside from relocating you, which is already investment, they will also need to invest in getting you up to par, and that together is usually a bit uh, risky for a company if somebody's just a beginner and doesn't know what he or she is going to do in the future. So keep that in mind, that if you want to come as a beginner, usually you will need to pay for yourself.
But do
uh,
they sponsor for the visa? I think that's the most important part.
they they sponsor for the visa, but then they will tell you be in the Netherlands, be sponsored, and then because they will not get the whole they because getting you the sponsorship means that they are responsible for relocating you. So it's not just about the money, but it's the whole process that comes with
Okay.
it. And going through that process is, for especially companies that are not internationally oriented but are starting to get international people on board, it's a hectic process. Which, if they if they don't have to, they will not do so. If you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. Is the portfolio important? Some people say you should go to the company and apply in person. We had that one. How does age matter for companies? Like, does someone in the 20s have more chance than others in their 30s? Again, this depends on the client and what the client is looking for. If a client has already a senior population, let's say, so a lot of their core development group is aging, and they are all up for pension, let's say, or pension is in sight, then it's more interesting for the company to renew if the company wants to have a long-term strategy, right? Because if all of them pension at the same time, then nobody will be left to do the work. So in that sense, it really depends on the situation of the company. If the yeah, on the other hand, if the company only has young people, they might need some experience there and would like to hire somebody older to guide the younger people. So that really depends.
Yeah.
Um, how much does knowing another language, especially German besides English, help in getting recruited? A lot, a lot, a lot. I mean, if you aren't in the Netherlands but you do speak Dutch, that will enhance your chances by, I don't know, 50 to 100% for sure. But then the question is, if you have never been and you don't speak with anybody, how did you learn the language and what is the level of your language? So that is, let's say, the tricky part about it. But the more languages you can learn, the better. That definitely. And make sure your English is on point, because that's the most spoken language, basically. Okay. Is it true when HR stay despite being competent, another candidate with more seniority was sorted, but there will be a perfect view on it? Yeah. Yeah. It could be. It could be. It really depends on again the needs of the company. Let's say if they need one developer and there are two good developers, but they only have budget for one, then it doesn't matter how good the second one is. Usually they will not hire that person. But that doesn't mean that in a year time there might be room for another one and you might be in their mind still. But that depends on the needs in a year, and that is something you cannot be certain of. It's a possibility, but you cannot be certain of that. So if you like the company, you had good conversations, I would say keep checking out the job posts and see if there's something relevant in there. Okay, let's do two more, I think, and then
Sure. Yeah. So
yeah,
like there's a comment about like bullet points. Like have we talked about it? Like
yeah.
what's the
What's the
perfect?
question? I
Should
don't
we have
understand the
numbers
question.
for like in our CV, like in your resume?
I wouldn't say numbers for every achievement, but it's good to state like, hey, I have 1 year of experience with React. I have 2 years with Vue.js. I've worked 1 year with Docker. Um, Mention it so that we understand like, hey, you are senior in this, maybe less senior in that, but overall, this is his experience. So I
I
would
think he's
definitely
talking about those numbers that those
the
softwares tell
twenty
you. To like,
percent, twenty
yeah,
percent.
the one I did 20% performance, those kind of numbers.
That I no, it's not mandatory. If you have it, great. If it's true, great. If you don't have it, don't
Yeah.
make it up.
Yeah,
That's
as
my
you said, on the meetings, you have to be able to defend that. It's not that it's like,
exactly.
okay, I said it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I feel the wind is blowing that way.
Yeah.
Let me say this.
Yeah.
No, that's
Yeah.
not the way
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Yeah, and the last comment is about like, should we mention the correct location in the resume or not? Since like with Iran, we get lots of rejections.
Indeed, but it doesn't matter because in the end, if I do speak to you, I will ask you where you're based. And if on your LinkedIn you will tell me Amsterdam and then we're in conversation, but you're still based in Iran, again, be truthful because if we are going to work together, which is the goal, then I'll probably find out, and then you will need to explain to me why you lied. I get that it's interesting for you to get attention, but then I will put myself on open to relocate or put in your summary on LinkedIn, like, hey, based in Iran, but actively looking for a position in the Netherlands, Sweden,
I see.
wherever you would like to go, so that people know you're there, but you're really actively focused on getting to those countries.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. We got like 1 hour and 10 minutes of the whole, even 10 minutes more than that
Yeah.
the time we
Do you
said.
have a minute for another question? If you need to leave, you can.
No, I'm okay. Let me just
Okay.
double check one thing, but I'm okay.
I
I
I
really
just
enjoyed
came
this,
up
guys.
with a good
Really
question.
Oh, awesome, cool.
We should do that weekly.
yeah,
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 why not?
yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, guys. Let's go.
Do you
What
have
is your
time?
last? Yeah.
Okay,
Let's go.
because you messaged me on LinkedIn for first time,
hmm
and I
hmm
heard about the job from you. How do you find people?
Um, as I said, I look at technologies. So I know what my clients, my thing is to give you a perspective, but then I'm talking for myself, not recruiters in general. My thing is I need to understand. If I understand my client, if I understand my candidate, if I understand the role, I'll be able to match. That's all I need.
Mm,
In that sense, I understood Instruct and I understood that they're not looking, yes, they're looking for a React developer, but they're looking for somebody that has the ambition to grow, is flexible, has the right mindset. And when I came across your profile, I saw the experience you had. So you were already, let's say, a good front end developer. You were just lacking the React, but you were interested in learning React. And the way you came across was very eager on that. So that interested me like, hey, even though you do not have a lot of React experience, I need to talk to this guy because that's something he really wants. He's active. So if his skill matches profile and his communication skills matches profile, he could be very interesting for my client. I messaged you, you responded, we had our first conversation, and I was immediately enthusiastic. I need to introduce him because you have the profile that my client would look like. And
yeah,
yeah, during the interviews, it seems that it was a match. They liked your personality, your skill set, with the comment like, "Hey, he needs to learn this, this, and this." But yeah, Payman, are you willing to learn? Yes, of course. What do I need to do? Perfect. And
now
then
I'm
we made it.
blushing.
No, but
Yeah,
for real, like that.
but the one thing that I think I did on LinkedIn on your profile, you can set that I'm looking for a job in these
Mhm,
countries in Netherlands.
yeah.
And I wonder because
mhm,
I never saw the LinkedIn from the perspective of a recruiter. What is because you should have a pro account with LinkedIn, right?
mhm.
Yeah. So I don't
Indeed,
know what
indeed.
happens in the background for you. I only use it for as a candidate. Does that filter works for you? For like people
Yeah.
looking for a job in Netherlands should go to LinkedIn and set that field.
Definitely. And the more thoroughly you fill that in, the more easy it is for recruiters like me to find a specific person that is interested in a certain domain, is willing to relocate to the Netherlands, and has a certain skill set. So again, it does not help if you put everything on your LinkedIn that you think sounds cool. But if you make sure that your LinkedIn is a good representation
Yeah.
of what it is you can do, then the moment that somebody's looking for it, they can actually find you. And the more things you do, for example, if you're a front end developer, you can only put front end developer, or you can put all the frameworks, languages, I don't know, things you have worked with, and that will help me understand because I don't look just at the front end developer. I want to know, have you worked with the tools that show me that you are a front end developer instead of the title? Title is everybody can
Nice.
put senior head
Yeah.
of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I got this job, just by
Oh,
Yeah,
putting the senior in the title.
yeah, yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's my feedback to him.
yeah. Okay, that was my last question.
yeah. I want to
Yeah.
thank you, like Payman and Delano, for this awesome opportunity for us. It means a lot.
Mhm. Well,
So
you're
yeah,
welcome. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I hope it was insightful to the community as well. If there are any other questions in the future, reach out to us, and I hope it was worth it.
Will
Yeah.
do. Definitely will do. Just
yeah,
check your messages.
yeah.
Have
Great.
a great weekend, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
You too.
You too.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.